Hello. Can you hear me? Or should I speak up? I guess you hear me. My name is Hristo Pandjarov, and I work as a WordPress expert for SiteGround for something like 7 years. And I started working as a member of the support team. So I've done quite a lot of website migrations from one hosting company to ours. And today I'm going to talk to you about migrating WordPress and basically about how to move your site from one hosting account to another or from one type of hosting to another. So the first thing you may want to ask yourself, you probably are asking yourself, is so why should you even care about migration? The truth is that at some point you will have to migrate your website from whether it's from a shared to a VPS hosting or from one company to another. And you have to be aware that this time will come, and it's better if you're prepared to move your website from one place to another. So you will probably need to migrate your site because of a few of those reasons. First of all, the best case scenario is that your website is going more popular, you're getting a lot more visitors, and this means that we will need a more powerful hosting solutions just to be able to handle that traffic and that server load. The least pleasant versions are that probably your website is slower, running slow. Technology is evolving. Hosting providers come up with new services that you have at your disposal that you can use to make your site faster. And this is something really important because Google ranks faster websites better. Your visitors have nowadays a really short attention span, and you have only a few seconds to grab their attention. And if your site takes a few seconds to load, you're already losing visitors. Another possible reasons are that you're having issues with your current hosting provider, you're not happy with their support, or you need certain technology that they're not offering, or you can just move your site to save some money. Hardware is improving each year, technology is improving each year, and everything is becoming cheaper. A lot of hosting companies, not a lot, every hosting company wants to get new customers, so they have some nice discounts for new customers. So you probably save a lot of money if you move to a new hosting provider and make sure it's a better one. So those are just a few of the reasons that you will eventually have to migrate your site from one place to another. This said, it's really important to know that what's the actual process of moving a WordPress site from one place to another. Last year when I was here at WordCamp Orlando, there were a lot of people coming to our booth, speaking to me, saying, I'm not happy with my provider, but I stick with them for 6 years because I find this process very difficult. I think I won't be able to do it. But once you get to know how a migration is done and what are the steps, it's actually not that hard. So it's usually 5 easy steps to move your site from one place to another. First of all, you have to move all your files, all your photos, the WordPress core files, the files of your plugins, and so on. Next, you have to move your database from one server to another. You gotta make sure, you gotta reconfigure the WordPress app on the new server so it works with the newly transferred database. You gotta test and make sure that everything is working as supposed to. And finally, you have to move your domain name so it points to the new server. So those are 5 steps that are not really that hard. So a thing I always say to people is, what? Just one thing. This presentation is on slideshare.net/siteground. There will be a few URLs. You don't have to write them down, actually. If you want to, you can always can, but it will be public. It is public right now. So, and what would be the URL for those? slideshare.net/siteground. It was on the first slide. We'll put it on during the questions.
Thank you.
So you should not be afraid to migrate your website from one hosting account to another. It's a natural thing, and actually, well, most of people that are afraid to do this, they say, I don't have a very sophisticated website. I'm not a developer. Actually, the simpler the website, the easier the migration. So if you need any great expertise to move your site around, the chances are that you already have that expertise because you've built such a sophisticated website anyway. The easiest way to move your data from one server to another is using WordPress plugins. Those are some of the few plugins that will allow you to migrate your content, your database, and your files from one account to another. There are paid plugins, there are free plugins, and unless you have a big website with files above, let's say, 5 gigs and a database above 200-300 megabytes, those should do that heavy work for you. So if you have a small website, the chances are that you just check one of these plugins, go through their documentation, see how they work. Most of them have pretty easy to use interface. You just usually you have one plugin on the old server and a client plugin on the new one, and then you start that transfer. However, when you have a big website, plugins will not help you with the migration in every case. The thing is that they have to, in order to work, they have to work perfectly fine on both your old server and the new one. And when you have a few gigabytes of files, big database, they can hit a timeout. They can exceed any limitation on either of the two hosts. And you're probably changing companies too, so they don't have the servers on the same data center. They are not on the same networks. So when we're talking about gigabytes, the chances are that something will time out somewhere. So it's a good idea to know how to transfer your website manually. This is actually the way we do it. When I'm migrating a website, in 99% I do it manually because I know my way around this, but still for bigger sites, moving it manually, it's necessary. So I'll try to go through each one of the steps of that process. And I always begin with moving files. That's just because they're the least dynamic thing on your website usually. The database is updated much more often than files. So the first thing you may want to do is move your files. There are a few suggestions I can give you here. And the first one is to compress your WordPress files and folders into one single archive. Doing this will give you two benefits. The first one is that you have a lot of text files, and when compressed to a zip archive, the size of those files is smaller as any other regular archive. And the second thing is that when you transfer that to another web hosting company, to another account, whether you're using FTP or downloading it directly via SSH, if you're downloading few thousand web files, your computer makes a request for each one of those files, and that communication goes back and forth. And if you're moving a single file, this happens only once. So it's way faster to download one big archive than to download few thousand smaller files. The other tip I can give you here is to download this file directly to your new account. So instead of downloading a backup of your files to your local computer and then go upload that to the new place, if you're familiar with SSH, if you're using it, just go to your new account and download it directly from your old one. This way you eliminate pretty much one big upload of one probably big file. Another thing you should consider is that don't be afraid to contact your hosting support team. They have more access than you do on their servers. They're probably way more familiar than you using terminal, SSH. So it will be much easier for them to create a zip file with all your files and folders in it. And they won't hit any limitation, and it will be faster. You can you should be able to request such archive of your account to be done, and you can request from your new company to download this file from the other place, in case you don't have access to SSH or you just don't want or don't know how to use it. The next thing is your database. Databases are not just a single file that you can simply move away. You need to export your old database and import it into a new one on your new hosting account. So first, exporting your database, you need to know which database you're using. You can open the wp-config.php file, check out this line, and see which one is the actual database that this WordPress instance is using. I always do that because I tend to have like 10 WordPress apps installed on a single account all the time. So when you go to your phpMyAdmin start exporting, you'll see a whole bunch of databases, and you probably wonder which one of those is responsible for this website. So you can check this in the wp-config.php file. Now, the easiest way is if you're on a web host, your cPanel hosting account, or pretty much everybody has this. You can use the phpMyAdmin tool to make a dump file to export your database. phpMyAdmin is a very, very nice tool. It's easy to work with, intuitive, but it works through PHP. So if you have a very big database, sometimes it may time out. So another way to create a dump file for your database is to use SSH. You can just use this command, and it will result in a file called in .file, which is basically an archive for your database. You need to give it your database username, password, the database name, and the name of the archive you want to create. Again, you should compress this file before transferring it to your new account. If you're using phpMyAdmin, it will give you an option to do that on the way. Yes?
What do you compress it into?
It depends on what hosting account company you are. If it's a cPanel, you can use the file manager too. You just select the file, and there is a compress button. It makes a zip archive or tar.gz or something like that. If you have access to SSH, you can use a command line command to make a zip file. But usually all the file managers that you have access to will have a nice button that will allow you to do that with a single click. Again, download that file directly from the new server. Don't bother downloading it to your computer and then uploading it again. That's just useless. If you can do it directly from the new server. And again, don't be afraid to ask your hosting support. It will be much easier for them to export your database. They won't hit any limitations because they have different level of access to their servers. And to make that zip file for you, that shouldn't bother them at all. Again, you can ask your new hosting support to download this directly from the new server. So every time you can spare any action, you should do it. Importing the database. So first, on your new account, you have to create a new database and a new username for it. And then you need to grant permissions for that new username to have access to that database. So if you're on a cPanel, there is a My SQL databases tool. Different hosting accounts name it differently. Different companies name it differently, but they do pretty much the same. Create a username, create a database, and grant permission to that username for the database. So once you do that, you can use a tool called the phpMyAdmin tool again to import that dump file you've created in the previous step into the new blank database. Again, phpMyAdmin works through PHP. And if it's a huge file, it may time out. Actually, huge file here is not that huge. If your database is anything about 250 megabytes, you'll probably hit some sort of timeout here. Probably. It may work or it may not. You can try it out. Much safer, upload the SQL file on your new account. And if you're familiar with SSH, you can use this command to import this archive into this new user database you have created for your new WordPress application. If you have any problems importing or exporting those files, you should ask your support. Now, once you've moved your database and once you've imported into the new one you've created and you have all your WordPress files there, you need to reconfigure WordPress. That's because databases are usually named after your username underscore the name you have given to that database. So if your user is Mark on one hosting company, it probably won't be the same on the other one because they have a Mark already, and it will be like Mar1 or something like that. So the new database won't be named the same way. So what you need to do, you need to open the WP config PHP file and change those 3 lines and give them your new database name, your new username, and the new password. Another thing you should take care about at this step is that if you're migrating away from a managed WordPress hosting company, some of them put additional lines in your WP config PHP file. This is not bad, but those lines usually configure things like your caching server. This is a real example, your root folder, and probably you won't even have access to that IP address. It won't be on the network of your new hosting company. So open a blank new WP config PHP file, the default one, check out the lines in it, and if you see something strange added at the bottom of it, just comment it out on the new place. It should work out of the box. Now, once you reconfigure your WordPress application to use your new database, the transfer database, you need to test whether everything's working fine. A lot of hosting companies will provide you a direct server URL, but WordPress relies on the domain name on the URL it's configured to work with in order to operate correctly, to assemble the URLs and show your theme and so on. So the easiest and the best way to test whether a migration is successful is to use your local host file on your local computer. Local host files basically overwrite DNS hookups. So instead of going to your DNS server and resolving your domain to a server IP address, if you add those lines to your host file, they will go directly to the IP address you have specified. So basically, on your own computer, you're resolving that domain name to the new server without doing the DNS change, without having everybody else see it. If you're on a Linux or a Mac, that file should be on etc hosts. And if you're on Windows, it should be in a folder like that one. Different Windows versions, some of them change that path, but you can Google it specifically for Windows 7, Windows 8, or whatever version you're using. So this is per computer, so you have to check it for your own system version. Once you do that, once you open that file, you can add a line like this: the IP address of the new server and your domain with and without www. So once you save this file and open your browser, you will load your domain from your new server before you even make the DNS change. Finally, you need to point your domain. Once you have moved your database, your files, once you make sure that everything is working fine on your new server, you can now safely point your domain name to the new server. Basically, it's a simple step. You go to the registrar interface and you change the name servers for your domain to the ones that your new hosting account has given you. If you don't know them, just ask your new hosting company. And that's pretty much it. This is how you migrate a WordPress website. So now I'm going to give you some tips that I find very useful. First of all, plan your transfer. This is a very important step. Go to your Google Analytics account. If you're not using one, start using one now. It's a good time. Go to your Google Analytics account. Check out when your visitors are loading your website. check which is the least, the time of the week and the time of the day where we get a least amount of visitors. So this is the best time to do the switchover. So the chances are that very little, if there are any issues after all, you have the least amount of people to notice them. If you're running a promotion, if your website is connected to a physical events that happen, let's say on Friday, don't do the migration on Friday. Something will happen. And yeah, do it Sunday morning, 3 a.m. Usually that's the least visit time for your site. Set up a maintenance page. If you can, you should set up a maintenance page on your old hosting account before you make the DNS change, and then switch over domains. This is a nice roundup of Adam Warner put it. You can get the link from SlideShare, or you can type it down. I use some shortener. This is a roundup of few both paid and free maintenance page plugins. What they do a maintenance page. They turn your website in maintenance mode and show your visitors a page that you have to create yourself. Depending on how sophisticated your website is, you may go for a simpler plugin that just allows you to type in some text. Dear visitors, I'm migrating. If you see this web page, you're loading my website from my old hosting account. Try refreshing, come again in 5 minutes, clear your DNS cache, stuff like that. So this way, you'll be sure that you won't lose any data, because when you switch your domain name to the new server, there's a thing called propagation period. DNS servers across the globe send notification that there is a change for the IP address for that domain name. And one server talks to another, and then to another, and it takes time for all of the DNS servers around the world to update their domain tables. So it may take up to 48 hours actually for everybody to start resolving your site to the new server. So if you place a maintenance page, on your old account, you make sure that there will be no people posting on your old site. And then when they start resolving your domain name to the new server, they'll be like, where are my commands? Where are my stuff? Using a remote My SQL connection. You can't use maintenance pages every time. For example, if you have an online store, you don't want to lose people who make orders. So another great way to battle propagation time and not losing data is to use a remote My SQL connection. What this means is that you can configure your old WordPress application to work directly with the database on your new server. So what you got to do here is go to your new server account and allow it to accept remote MySQL connections. In cPanel, there's a tool called Remote MySQL Connections. If you're using other company, they probably name it different. But still, there should be that kind of tool. If you can't find it, contact support. Basically, this is needed because you need to allow your new server to accept connections to its database, because it's not allowed by default. It's a security issue to have everybody being able to connect to your database. You don't want to do that. You have your WordPress in one account. Once you allow the IP address of your old hosting account, you can just open the wp-config PHP file and change the DB host from localhost, probably it will be localhost, to the IP address of your new server. This way, when even if somebody resolves your website from your old server, it will be connected to your new database. So if you are selling stuff online, your new orders will be coming, your new users will be coming directly to your new site. So you won't lose any money, you won't lose any visitors, any comments, any user-submitted posts, and all that information. The only problem about this is that it doesn't work for files. So if you have your visitors submit files to your site, this won't solve that issue. You will have to make a final seek of your files. Just move everything that wasn't transferred. If somebody uploads files directly to your WordPress app, you'll probably see broken links because they won't be physically on the new server, and you have to manually move those later. But in most cases, that is a really nice way to avoid any data woes. I said this numerous times. Don't be afraid to communicate with your hosting provider. This is our job, basically. The support is there to help you with everything they can. Support teams of hosting companies have better access than you, and they won't hit any timeouts. In addition to that, if you're moving, for example, from one cPanel host to another cPanel host, the cPanel allows you to create a complete backup of your cPanel account and then import that all together into a new cPanel hosting company. This means that you go with one file, you move it over, and you get your databases, your files, your emails, forwarders, everything completely cloned to the new account, which is like the easiest possible way to migrate your account completely. And yeah, they won't hit any timeouts or whatever. Those are my slides, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Yes?
So is it resolved if like your images have an absolute path that has your old domain name, in it? Is that going to, those, if you manually somehow fix
You have moved, you've already moved your files in your images, right, in the first step? The only problem is that I spoke about is if your users if they upload content to your website during the propagation, if they upload something on your old hosting account, and even if its database is connected to the new one, you will get the post, but the image won't load, or the file they have submitted won't load because it's on the old account. But if they don't do that, if you have moved everything in the first step, it should be OK. Anyone else? Yes?
Yeah, when a client asks to move its website, it's really hard to evaluate how long it's going to take. Sometimes it's really easy, sometimes it takes. How long does it take average to move a website?
There is no average number I can tell you about. First, What was the question? OK, I'll repeat the question. Moving content from one place to another takes, sometimes it's really fast, sometimes it's really slow. What is the average time needed to transfer a website? So it really depends on how big that site is. And if you move it from one server to another directly, it's about networking, really. If there are hosting companies that have their computers physically in the same data centers, most of hosting companies rent their hardware, they not own it. So if you're moving from one hosting company from one data center that's in the same one, the network, the internet speed between those two, the connectivity would be great, and it would be super fast. But if you're moving from, let's say, from a Chicago data center to a Houston one, it won't be that fast. And it's about internet service providers, and I really can't tell you an average here. Sometimes what we do is when we migrate sites, and this is especially valid for files because usually they're the biggest part of the migration. When we move from a host that we know that we don't have a very good connectivity with, we set up. We just leave it to download the compressed file overnight, and it takes 10 hours, 12 hours sometimes. Sometimes if it's a normal blog with a couple hundred or a couple of thousand images, it takes an hour, half an hour. It really depends on how big your website is, really, and the connectivity, of course. Anyone else? Yes?
I'm looking for a strategy or a process to approach for development, testing, acceptance, and production.
Yep.
Do you recommend this process for that? It seems rather cumbersome for anything but a, complete migration.
That should be part of your research. of your initial research, whether the new company will accommodate your current workflow. If you're using stuff like Django, will it work there? So does that make sense to you?
I might have to take it offline, and I guess I'm not familiar with the tools available in this space, for following that process.
Well, I don't think it's that hard. You should start using. You should first start with plugins, because there's really nothing hard using them. Just install a regular plugin, make a new WordPress install the client version of that plugin, press a button or two, and it just starts copying. If that works for you, that's great. That's the easiest way to move content. And then you just switch the DNS. Yes?
Somebody had mentioned that in the migration, not from host to host, but from a local build up to the live site, so that they can do some local development and make sure plugins are working properly and such. Is there anything you can say about using migration in that way? Or is there a better way to do the development and getting it up onto your site?
Okay, those are actually two questions. When you upload your local environment to your live account, it's completely the same if you move from one hosting company to another. It's just like you are one of the hosting companies that you move away from. There are tools like ServerPress and a few others that will allow you to create a local environment. It connects with if you have existing one, it can connect with it. And so you just give it access to the FTP and cPanel, or they work in a different way. Or you install a new WordPress on your live account and install a small plugin. So what it does, ServerPress, for example, it connects to your live application and just starts uploading everything you've done on your local environment. Now, about the other thing you said, for example, with SiteGround, we have developed a staging tool, so you can easily make a clone of your website to a subdomain. Then you can work on that subdomain, make your changes, try out new theme, try out new code, new plugins, and once you're happy with the result, you can just push that to live. And this is one of basically making staging copies of your website and testing out drastic changes you make. It's a really good idea.
So one way is doing local, the other is doing it as a subdomain on your host.
If you prefer building your website from scratch on a subdomain on a live host, that's okay. It will be a bit slower than using a local environment, though, and you can't work offline. So those are the advantages of using a WAMP or whatever to have a local host. Anyone else? Yes?
Building a new website, WordPress. Current customer has a site hosted on with a company that's specific to that niche or industry. We're not going to migrate the site, but so this may not be a question you might want to answer or can answer. I'm wondering, all the content on his other site that's being hosted by this company is going to be pointing to our new site, which we're going to host like on a HostGator platform. Should I take any of that stuff and FTP transfer it to the new site and then maybe bury it in URLs or something that aren't going to be found by the searcher and then redirect those links?
Are you building the new site on a new domain?
No.
So you're using the same domain, you just want to, have a new design?
We're not going to want the whole other site because it's been put together over years. It's such a mess. You've got just all kinds of stuff going on. We really want to clean and refine it to a very crisp and clean platform. That's why we went to WordPress and not it's currently in an HTML, old PHP.ex something or another, but it's...
If it's not WordPress, you have...
WordPress to WordPress. It's an HTML and we're building a WordPress.
That's a whole new thing, whole different thing. you need to import that data. Before working for SiteGround, I've been importing databases from one custom business software to one other business software. It's usually a really difficult task to move something from a custom database to the WordPress structure.
Can I talk to you offline?
Yeah, you can. That would be great. You had a question first?
More one or two comments.
Okay.
You said choose the moment where there are least people on your site to do the migration, and as you said, usually it's during the Sunday night.
Yeah.
But you should also choose a moment where you have a few hours ahead of you, free ahead of you, in case something goes wrong. Don't do that before going to bed.
Yeah. The chances are that you're not going to bed anyway. 3 to 5 a.m., best time to migrate a website, Sunday.
And I don't remember the other comment.
Okay. Yes?
One thing I was going to add to her question really quick is that these migrations that he's walked through are from your current domain on your current hosting to your same domain on a different hosting. So the absolute URLs remain intact. If you were migrating those files though to a different URL, those absolute URLs are going to break, of course, because it's going to try to point back, and when you bring your redirections across, you acquire a whole bunch of additional steps. All of the steps were initially the same,
That's it.
but then you're going to have steps of setting up
There is no
redirects
previous
to all
page.
of those URLs. You're going to have edits that are going to need made to the database, either by SQL or by a plugin such as Velvet Blue. And then you're going to have the job of collecting everything from broken links and that, and cleaning up and doing some redirection stuff. So you take this and you add a level of complexity if you're changing domains in the process.
Actually, if you're changing domain names, it's not that bad. I had a slide, but I removed it because I didn't want to cover that too. If you're changing domains, changing the domain name of your WordPress app, it's really easy now. I do it by going to the functions.php file of my team, and there are 2 lines that you need to add, which basically update your database settings, changing the home URL and the base URL of your WordPress app. You load your website once, so those settings are updated, and then you remove those lines, and it starts working from the new place, from the new domain name. On top of that, you may want to go and regenerate your permalinks. Just go to the settings, permalinks, update, that's it.
But without a plugin such as Velvet Blue or running some SQL commands, if she has some static links to full path
Yeah.
in her content, she's still going to have to
If you have static links, that would be an issue. I would, if you're familiar with using SSH and Terminal, there is a tool called WP-CLI. It's a command line interface for WordPress. Most of the managed hosts have it pre-installed on all their servers. You should ask for it. It's a really nice tool that basically allows you to do stuff, typing commands. It's like WP plugin update all, and you get all your plugins updated. And it has a really neat feature called search replace. So you just type in WP search replace old string, new string. And if you replace your old domain name, like olddomain.com with newdomain.com, it will go through the database, replace it, and there are things like sanitation in your database. WP-CLI will take care of that too. So it's a really nice tool to have and be able to use if you're changing URLs. WP-CLI, command line interface. Yep.
Yeah, then you need like command line access to your server, and most hosts don't give that to regular people like us. We use
Everybody gives SSH nowadays.
well, I'm not sure I'm not sure people here are that familiar with using the command line. We use a PHP script that's called IT Connect Search and Replace. And it works really well. It does the same thing, and you just load it on it's a web page.
What was the name of it?
IT Connect Search
Okay,
and Replace.
okay, yeah.
It works well, and you don't need to command line access.
Right, and that's where the same, rather than going the script side, we add the 2 lines to the WP config
Yeah,
to get into the site, and then we use the Velvet Blue plugin to do the sanitation and
Yeah.
the end.
So there are things
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Instead of going through all these steps for zipping files and making a local copy of your file and then reconfiguring WordPress and all that kind of stuff, if you go to your new hosting company and you tell them that you're moving from one host to another host, help you with the host, it's going to be the same domain. You just transfer in.
Yep. It depends on where you're going. For example, with SiteGround, we offer free migration for our new customers. So you just give us the login details for your old account, and we move your site for you. Other companies offer this for a small charge. Others offer it for not so small charge, and others don't offer it because it's a manual work. It's not something that you can automate. You gotta have a person doing that for you, making sure that everything is transferred, working, and it's just a service. You may want to ask your new hosting company whether they will transfer your site for you. If they say yes for free, that's great. Yes?
Just real quick, I just want to let everybody know we've got about 5 more minutes for questions. But at noon, or is it noon? At noon, our first lunch starts. It's going to be right over here, right across the courtyard from the sponsors.
Cool. Lunch is always nice. Anyone else? Anyone?
I mean, if these offers, get hosting for like $1 a month.
Okay. We got you here. Yes?
And some people have used it and they say it's good.
Probably it's good for some people. Okay. I don't see nothing wrong with that. You get what you're paying for. Everybody will say the product is good.
Only for new customers.
Probably.
No, it's 1 month for a year.
Okay. It's pricing. They'll probably catch us here and there. You had a question? Okay, that's a good question. SEO. Usually it's 2 things. You should go for a company that's located within the country you're targeting your visitors. So if you're a US-based business, go for a US-based company for the US data centers. Google has come a long way the last years, and it will probably won't affect your website in a bad way to migrate from one hosting account to another. Having a faster website will have a lot more SEO benefits than the negative effect a migration will have. It will be a minimal. You will not get out of Google Index because you've moved to a better host. Anyone else? Okay, great. Yes?
If you pay more for hosting, are you guaranteed more traffic on your website?
It probably.
Probably.
Yeah. Oh, it depends. If you get from one shared account to another shared account, probably not. If you're switching from a shared to VPS, yes. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, let's go have some lunch. Thank you.